It's like the pyramids have this pull, just when you think you've got a handle on them, something new pops up.
Yeah, that's the thing about these ancient wonders, isn't it?
It is. Right now, everybody buzzing about these claims of giant structures hidden under the Khafre Pyramid. Like, what else is down there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's part of the whole fascination, right? The mystery just keeps going. And it gets even more intriguing when you've got researchers from respected universities throwing their hats in the ring.
Absolutely. We're talking about Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde. Their press release on March 15th, 2025 really shook things up.
They did. I mean, they're making some pretty bold statements based on some pretty advanced tech synthetic aperture radar tomography.
SAR, for short.
Right, SAR. Think of it like this. It builds a 3D image of what's underground by looking at radar signals from a bunch of different angles. It gives a much clearer picture than a simple scan.
And what they're saying they found is, well, pretty mind-blowing.
It is, yeah. So for this deep dive, we want to break down these claims.
Look at the evidence and try to figure out what's really going on.
Separate fact from fiction.
Exactly. We want to equip you with the knowledge to understand this stuff without needing a degree in Egyptology.
Exactly. Clarity over sensationalism, right?
100%. So let's get to the heart of it. What exactly did Malanga and Biondi claim to have found under the Khafre Pyramid?
Okay, so according to them, they've uncovered this massive 2-kilometer complex directly below the Khafre Pyramid.
2 kilometers. That's like the length of 20 football fields end to end. And this complex supposedly includes 5 multi-level structures.
All identical to each other.
And then there are these 8 cylindrical wells. Deep, deep wells.
Plunging 648 meters straight down.
648 meters. That's almost twice the height of the Burj Khalifa. Just imagine trying to dig that deep back then.
Hard to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then at the bottom of these wells, they say they found 2 gigantic cube-shaped structures.
80 meters wide each.
I mean, if this is all true, the sheer scale of it is just astounding.
Yeah. And their interpretation of this, well, they're saying these aren't natural formations.
No way.
Nope. They're suggesting it's man-made, something built with a purpose that goes far beyond just tombs.
And that opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it? It's like, okay, what were these multi-level structures for? What about those crazy deep wells?
Well, let's break it down. First, those multi-level structures. 5 of them near the base of the Khafre Pyramid.
All connected by these geometric pathways.
They're describing 5 distinct levels in each structure and a sloped roof.
Almost like a secret underground city, right? 5 levels in each structure. That's a lot of space. And those geometric pathways connecting them, that's got to be intentional.
It does suggest deliberate design, definitely. Now, those wells?
8 of them, each with a spiral pathway winding around it, 648 meters deep. Gotta wonder, what was the point of going so deep?
And remember, those 2 massive cubic structures at the bottom. It's the combination of all those structures, those deep wells, this entire network spread over 2 kilometers that leads them to suggest a purpose beyond just burial.
And this is where it gets really interesting because it ties into some long-standing alternative theories about the pyramids. They're mentioning Nikola Tesla.
And Christopher Dunn's the Giza power plant theory.
Yeah, the whole idea that the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid, might have served some kind of technological function, like harnessing the Earth's energy.
So while these ideas are super intriguing, it's important to remember that this new SAR data needs some serious scrutiny before we start linking it to any specific theory, even an exciting one.
Right. We have to be careful not to get ahead of ourselves. It's not about dismissing anything out of hand, but about taking a measured, critical approach.
Exactly. And actually, there have been other discoveries around the Giza Plateau in recent years that do point to hidden structures.
Oh, right. I mean, it's not like the idea of hidden chambers or passages in and around the pyramids is totally out there.
Right. In 2023, the Scan Pyramids project used cosmic ray muon radiography to find a 30-foot-long corridor inside the Great Pyramid. That was huge. It proved there were spaces we didn't even know about.
Yeah, I remember that making headlines. It really showed there's still so much to learn. What else have they found?
Well, between 2021 and 2023, there was a survey in Giza's Western Cemetery using ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography.
GPR and ERT, those are both techniques for mapping what's underground without digging, right?
Exactly. They found an L-shaped structure about 6.5 feet deep and another anomaly even deeper, maybe 10 to 33 feet down.
Okay, so definitely smaller than what Malanga and Biondi are talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it does suggest there's more to the Giza Plateau than meets the eye.
Right. And it's not just recent discoveries. Historically, we know there are underground features all over the Giza Plateau.
Yeah, like the mastabas, which often had burial chambers underneath.
So going underground in Giza isn't some new concept.
Not at all. The fact that Malanga and Biondi use SAR technology is also worth noting.
Because SAR has been successful in finding hidden structures before, right?
Right. In other archaeological contexts, it's been really useful for identifying things underground without actually digging.
So it's not crazy to think they might have found something unusual under the Khafre Pyramid using SAR.
Not crazy at all. But there are some reasons to approach that specific claims of this giant complex with caution.
And as promised, we're going to get into those reasons because being critical and evaluating evidence is just as important as getting excited about new discoveries.
Absolutely. One of the biggest red flags here is the lack of peer review.
Meaning?
It means their findings haven't been checked and validated by other experts in the field yet.
Ah, okay. As of March 22nd, 2025, their work has only been published on arXiv, which is a preprint server.
Right. So it's kind of like sharing your rough draft before getting feedback. It hasn't gone through that rigorous scientific testing process.
That independent verification is crucial. It's like getting a second opinion from a specialist.
Exactly. Without peer review, we have to take their interpretation of the SAR data with a grain of salt.
Okay, that's a big one. What else should we consider?
The geology and archaeology of the Giza Plateau. The bedrock is mostly limestone.
And limestone isn't exactly easy to carve, right? Especially on the scale they're talking about.
Right. Plus, because of the Nile, the water table is pretty high. That adds another layer of difficulty.
It does. I mean, digging a 648-meter deep complex with all those intricate details into that kind of environment, that would be a mind-boggling engineering feat.
It would. Even for the ancient Egyptians, who were incredibly skilled builders, it pushes the boundaries of what we understand about their capabilities.
You'd think there'd be some sign of such a huge project on the surface, right?
You would. And that brings us to the next point, the inconsistency with how we think the pyramids were built.
Yeah. Mainstream Egyptology is pretty clear that the pyramids were tombs for pharaohs.
Built using ramps, sledges, and a whole lot of skilled labor.
The Khafre Pyramid, in particular, sits on higher bedrock. It even incorporates natural rock formations. We know there are internal passages and a burial chamber, but nothing to suggest this vast underground network they're claiming.
Right, the known internal structure of the pyramids doesn't line up with what they're describing.
But even if they did find something down there, actually getting in to explore it wouldn't be easy, right?
No, not at all. The Egyptian government is super careful about any digging around the pyramids. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they don't want to risk damaging anything.
So even confirming their findings would be a massive undertaking.
It would, and in the meantime, we're left with a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of room for speculation.
Which is exactly what we're seeing online. Since this press release, there's been a ton of buzz on platforms like X.
Yeah, you see a lot of people jumping to conclusions about ancient energy grids, lost technologies, even links to pre-flood civilizations.
It's like this discovery, or at least the claim of this discovery, is fueling all these pre-existing beliefs.
It is. People are eager to connect it to figures like Nikola Tesla. But his ideas about the pyramids were based on his own theories, not on specific archaeological evidence.
And Christopher Dunn's Giza power plant theory, that's based on the lack of certain construction documents, right?
Right, but the absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. We know from other ancient sites that just because we don't have a complete record of how something was built doesn't mean the traditional explanation is wrong.
And then there's that image going around, the one with the pyramids on those huge pillars with hieroglyphs.
That's purely fictional. It's an artist's interpretation, not a real archaeological find.
It's important to separate those things, right? What's imagination versus what's actually been discovered.
Absolutely. When we look at what has been confirmed archaeologically, it actually supports the idea that the ancient Egyptians were masters of logistics and engineering.
Like that 2024 study about the branch of the Nile used to transport the pyramid stones, that reinforces what we know about how they built the pyramids.
Exactly. And the smaller chambers and anomalies that have been found, those fit within the context of Egyptian burial practices.
So what about all the talk about mathematical precision in the pyramids? Pi, the golden ratio, the speed of light. Does that lend any weight to these theories about a hidden purpose?
While the pyramids do have some pretty remarkable mathematical properties, a lot of the claims about specific constants being intentionally encoded are based on cherry-picking data.
Meaning?
Meaning they're choosing specific measurements that fit their theory while ignoring others that don't.
Ah, okay.
Egyptologists generally say these properties reflect the ancient Egyptians' advanced knowledge of math and astronomy.
Which makes sense. They were incredible builders and astronomers.
They were. As for things like the alignment with Orion's belt, that's been largely debunked.
Really?
Yeah, the alignments aren't as precise as some people claim, and there's no real evidence to support it from ancient Egyptian texts.
So a lot of these alternative interpretations are taking things out of context or exaggerating certain details.
It seems that way. And you see that same back and forth playing out online.
On X, you mean?
Yeah, you've got people who are super excited, seeing this as proof of their theories,
And then you've got others who are much more skeptical.
and rightly so. It's healthy to be skeptical, especially when extraordinary claims are being made.
It all comes back to the evidence, or in this case, the lack of it.
That's the key takeaway here. As of March 22nd, 2025, this claim of a massive complex under the Khafre Pyramid is unverified. The SAR data might be showing something, but the interpretation is still up for debate.
It needs that peer review and ideally some physical confirmation.
It does. And until then, we have to remember that the Giza Plateau, while full of mysteries, is also an extensively studied archaeological site.
So we can't just throw out everything we know based on one unverified claim.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between the excitement of the unknown and the rigor of scientific inquiry.
And that's what we're all about here, right? Asking questions, exploring possibilities, but always grounding ourselves in the evidence.
Exactly. And speaking of exploring, if you're interested in digging deeper into other archaeological discoveries in Egypt, or maybe learning more about how the pyramids were built, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and what you'd like us to cover in future deep dives.
Absolutely. Because ultimately, it's the curiosity, that desire to understand these ancient wonders, that keeps us all coming back for more.
And who knows what amazing secrets are still waiting to be uncovered.
Well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The mystery endures.
It certainly does.